Okay. Yes. Good morning, everyone. So today we will be starting with our first experiment. Before starting with our first experiment, uh, we have decided that you can make a team of 2 to 4 members. Okay. So minimum is two and maximum is four. So that is what we have decided. And one more important thing is that till last year we had expected that you people should or students must visit the client's location and gather the requirements, but this time due to pandemic it may be very difficult for all of you to visit the client's location and interact with the clients. So what I would suggest you is, if it is possible, you can have a online meeting with your client and collect the requirements, and based on the requirements you can develop the project. Okay, only if it is possible, and it should be only online. I'm not insisting and I'm not making it compulsory. Okay, please note this point. And so due to pandemic, what we can do is, you can have a hypothetical problem definition, and based on that you can do the project. Okay, so in that way we can avoid visiting the physical location, and you can make your own assumptions and develop the project. So in that case, faculty members will be giving you some guidance. So they will be telling you some changes, and you can do those changes. And one more important announcement is that if for any student, if it is not possible to develop the project, or if for any team, if it is not possible to develop the project, please inform us so we can give you the alternate solution and we will tell you what has to be done. Okay, so for project you have got 5 marks. It will be evaluated internally, and for your SWE examination we will be having 10 marks viva based on your project. Okay, so if you have got any problems, you share it with us, we will give you the solution. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible to you. You need to visit this URL. So don't visit now, just listen to my instructions. Later on you can visit this URL, and this URL is also put up on the Google Classroom, and the code to join Google Classroom has already been shared with all of you. So please join Google Classroom, because we will be posting all the announcements in Google Classroom only, and you need to join the classroom with the Google Meet link which is shared in the Google Classroom only. And note here that please join using your students, using your official email ID, that is usn at students.gid.edu only. What I'm telling you is that it can save our time, and we can avoid the disturbance in between the class. So when you try to join using your personal ID, I need to manually admit you people into the class, so that breaks the flow of explanation. So if you are joining using your usn at students.gid.edu email account, you will be directly logged into the Google Meet. Okay, fine. So the first experiment is about identifying requirements from the problem statements. So if you see here the list of experiments on this virtual lab website, there are 10 experiments, but we are not performing all these 10 experiments. Out of these 10 experiments, we are performing only 7 experiments. Okay, and one more eighth experiment is additionally included, that is based on databases. And as I have already told you, there is no restriction on the problem definition, there is no restriction on the project title. You can choose any project. You can go for web project, you can go for AIML project, you can go for mobile application or hybrid application or PW application, that is progressive web apps, whatever. So choice is left to you, but see that at least some of these artifacts have been considered while developing the project. Okay. So first experiment is identifying requirements from the problem statements. Okay, so when you visit this virtual lab, you can see that for each experiment they have got theory, then simulation, then fourth one is case study, then fifth one is the self-evaluation, then exercises and references. So for each experiment, you have these tabs. Okay, so after the explanation, what you have to do is you have to visit this site, perform the experiment, take the screenshot and upload it in the Google Classroom. Okay, so we will create the assignment for each experiment. Okay, so 1 week time will be given to you. So within that time, you have to perform this experiment and upload the screenshot for that particular experiment. So we are not expecting much here, just the problem definition you can copy and paste, and output you have to copy and paste. So within 1 page or 1.5 page, you can finish it and you have to upload it. Okay, so application is the first step and it is the first experiment in any software development project. Note here that requirements is very important. How to collect the requirements and you have to collect the right requirements. That is very important. If you collect wrong requirements in developing the wrong software and it will be rejected by your client. Okay, so you have to have multiple meetings with the clients and collect the requirements. So I am sharing with you my practical experiences here, so it will provide you some guidelines. Okay, so in this lab we are basically providing guidelines in each experiment and we are development, and you have to use those guidelines and come up with the software. Okay, so note here that whenever we speak about requirements are very ambiguous in nature. They don't have any clear picture. So your client will not be having a clear picture about the requirements. They themselves will not be knowing what requirements they have. So many times it happens that your client may not be technically proficient, so he may not be using the technology on day-to-day basis, so he is not aware of technological terms. So in that case, what he will do is he will say that he just needs a software, okay, with so and so features, and sometimes those features may not be feasible to implement. Okay, so that's why you need to collect the correct requirements. You need to collect the specific requirements. That is where the role of SRS document comes into picture. I hope you have studied a software engineering subject in last semester, or are you studying software engineering this semester? So please message in the chat box. Okay, yeah, good. So that helps me to cover some aspects quickly. So since you have already studied software engineering last time, so you might be aware of the structure of SRS document. Okay, so there were again different formats for SRS document. One such format is from IEEE. Okay, IEEE for preparing the SRS document. Note here that SRS document is part of the contract. Okay, this is a very important statement. SRS document is part of the contract. Once the SRS document is finalized, so both the parties, that is the software development company and the customer, both will sign on the software requirement specification document, stating that they will abide to the requirements specified in the document. So later, clients uh, cannot change the requirements. If he has to change, then again it will reflect into the software traceability matrix, and it will also reflect into the software development cost. Okay, but those changes will not be much, so there will be minimal changes, so that can be accepted. But if there are major changes, then your requirement specification document has to be modified significantly, and appropriate changes needs to be incorporated. Okay, so the first thing is that whenever you visit the client's location for requirements collection, okay, there are various methods of requirements collection. Okay, so first one is that you can collect the information through observation. Okay, so collecting the information through observation is known as ethnography. So you might have studied this in last semester. So ethnography is the method of collecting the requirements through observation. Note here that observation is very important skill. Okay, so you can collect a lot of information only through observation. You need not have to ask many people about the information. Okay, so if you visit any customer location, you may see that there are some graphs, you may see that organization structure. Okay, so in that case you can just take a photograph of it with their permission. Okay, so it is through observation you are seeing the information, and you are feeling that okay, this information may be useful for software development. Okay, or maybe if you're designing a website, so this information has to be included in the web page. So with just a permission, you can take a pic of it and you can collect the information, or you can ask them to provide the same information in the soft copy. Okay, so as I have already told you, you also need to study the background of a person. For example, what is his educational background? Okay, what is his profession? So 10 years back there was an incident happened with us, so that I will share with you. So once myself and my friend had got a call from a doctor saying that they have requirements for software development for their upcoming hospital. So we visited their location, and uh, we started the discussion. And later on, my friend asked doctor a question. He asked a very simple question, and doctor also gave very wonderful simple answer. So my friend asked the sir, in which language we need to develop the software? So the doctor said develop it in English. Okay, so this happens. Okay, so we cannot expect a doctor or a non-computing background person to have the knowledge of programming languages. Okay, so my friend was asking about the programming language, but since the doctor was not aware of the programming languages, he assumed that he is asking about the our day-to-day conversational languages like English, Kannada, or Marathi, or Hindi. So he said that develop the software in English. So this happens. So likewise, there will be several uh, things which will be happening. Okay, so which may be embarrassing situation for both customer as well as the person. Okay, then next, whenever you visit a client's location, you cannot collect, or it is not possible to collect the information from a single source. Okay, you need to meet multiple people. Say for example, if you want to develop a software for our college, then you just can't collect all the information from principal or a chairman. So you need to visit principal or chairman for just to get the high level overview of the software. But if you want to get the um, more detailed requirements, if you want more detailed information, then you need to visit the appropriate departments. For example, if you are automating the tasks of departments like computer science, electronics, or civil or mechanical, then you need to visit those respective branches and collect the requirements. Now note here that these are departments, but these departments may be having different set of requirements. But note here that you cannot develop a separate software for each department. You need to collect a requirement from each department, then consolidate the requirements and develop a common platform which will be used by all the departments. Okay, so when I'm saying here departments, it is our different branches. Okay, now I'm going to talk about departments in a different sense. So now if I am saying departments, then it is about exam section. So they will be having a totally different requirements from our branches. Then library will be having requirements, accounts department will be having different set of requirements, administration department will be having different set of requirements, and also the office will be having the different set of requirements. Okay, so here we cannot consolidate the requirements. Here the requirements are department specific, but the common requirement is that there can be interaction between all these departments. Okay, so let's say for example, when student takes admission, he will go to the admission department, fills in the form, pay the fees. So once his admission is confirmed, his information should automatically go to the respective department. Okay, so when the student reaches library, so librarian will search the information about that student and he will issue the library card. So similarly, when he comes to the department, so department people will search for his information and they will allocate him or her a appropriate class. Then next, when the exam form has to be filled, he can fill it through department, and when he fills the uh, examination form, that is the interaction between different departments. Okay, so this is about the requirements collection. One aspect I have already told you, that there are different methods of collecting the requirements. One such method which we have discussed is the ethnography, that is collecting requirements from the observation. Then next, you can also collect the requirements from questionnaires. Okay, so you can make a list of questions, right? So you can have multiple choice there, or you can have fill in the blanks there, or you can have one line answers, right? And you can distribute these questionnaires to the different form and they will submit it to you. So from that also you can consolidate the information and you will also come to know, okay, this is how this organization functions and this is what the different stakeholder thinks, and these are the requirements for different stakeholders. Okay, so student will be having a different requirement, staff will be having a different requirement, HOD will be having the different requirements. Okay, so office clerks will be having different requirements. Okay, so that's why you should distribute the questionnaire to different stakeholders. The next is the collecting the requirements through interviewing. Okay, ask series of questions and get the answers, right? And again, note here that you cannot collect the information from a single source. You have to meet multiple stakeholders and collect the requirements from those people. One more important thing, what you can do is it is always better to record your conversation. Okay, that is because when you record your conversation, you can listen to at later stage, and when you listen to it at later stage, you may get missing insights or new insights, and you can include them in your requirement specification, and you can come up with a better software. So it is always better to record your interview, okay, with the permission. Okay, with the permission. Without permission you cannot record, that's an offense. So with the permission you can record your interview, and you can listen to it multiple times, so in order to confirm that whatever you are doing is a correct way, and if there are any missing requirements, you can correct it. And you can also collect the requirements from prototyping. So prototyping is very important method of collecting requirements. So see here, what happens is most of the clients, as I have told you, they are not technologically savvy. Okay, especially they are not aware of how computer science works or how these apps work. So initially what they know is that they want some software. Okay, if clients says that they want a website, then they say that we just want a website. Then if they, what they know is they want a website, they want a mobile app, they want a software, that's it. And you have to suggest how you can develop software for them, what options have to be included for them based on the interaction with them. Okay, and many times it also happens that they might have seen a software somewhere else and they want a similar software. So they might have liked some feature over there and they want to implement that feature in the software. So sometimes it may be feasible, sometimes it may not be feasible. Note here that you cannot implement software directly after collecting the requirements. You have to perform a feasibility analysis. It is very important. Okay, if your software, whatever you are developing, you need to see, is it economically feasible to the client? Okay, so you have to see what budget the client has allocated for the software. Okay, if he has allocated only just 10,000 rupees, and if it is not possible to develop the software, then you should clearly tell him that, sorry sir, we cannot develop the software because it is not economically feasible for us. Okay, so you need to perform cost benefit analysis also there. So you need to see how much budget the client has allocated, and you need to see whether you can develop the software within that budget. If you can develop it, you can take it up, otherwise you can just drop it. Okay, so feasibility is one aspect. Then second aspect is that technical feasibility. So your client may ask you to develop some features, but it may not be feasible to develop that software because of multiple reasons. Maybe the language you have chosen, maybe the software which you have chosen, okay, it doesn't support those features. Okay, so in that case you cannot do anything. Okay, let's take for example, if you are developing a website using WordPress, and you have multiple roles, multiple admin accounts for different users. Even if we have the multiple admin accounts, then all those accounts will be having the access to all the information. That is, we cannot restrict the content to particular users. So that's a problem there. Uh, so if you are admin, then you will be able to access all the pages there. So that's a problem with WordPress. So if your client asks you to develop a role-based access to segregate the information, then that is not possible with WordPress. So there you need to choose a different technology platform to develop the software. Okay, so you have to take up software development if it is economically feasible, only if it is technically feasible. Okay, and also you need to see what is the timeline allocated. Okay, if your client tells you to develop 10 requirements, and if he is giving you just 2 to 3 days, then you have to simply just reject it. Okay, Now there is one question which I would like to ask. Let's assume that one client has approached you and he has asked you to develop a software, but your company doesn't have the technical competence to develop that software. So what you will do? You will take it up, or you will just and learn the technology and develop it. Okay, so your company doesn't have technical competence to develop that software. So will you still take it up? So you can message your answer here in the chat box. Whatever it is, even if it is wrong. So D. Deepak Prasanna says no. Akshay Naik says no. Right. So can you say what's the reason? Okay, Sagar, Pratmesh, Rohan, Parth. So everyone is saying no. Yeah, that's a correct answer. So can you provide the justification what you will do next? So Shreyas is saying that he will take up the project. So Shreyas, you have to justify your answer why you will take it up. Why you will not take up the project? You will do next. Okay, Nihal says that we will take it up if given time is sufficient. So how much time is sufficient? Deepak Prasanna says learning the skills and making the software takes times. So project will not be finished in time. Right. So we can consider this answer. I'm waiting for the reply from uh, other people. So let's have these sessions as interactive sessions. So if you want to speak, I'm open for that. You can unmute yourself and you can speak, no problem. Or if you want to type, you can type. Rohan says suggest alternate solutions. Yeah, that you can do. So here suggesting alternate solution means that you can redirect that client to your. Okay, you may be having good relations with other software companies, so you can redirect them, and they will contact that company to get clients. So when your friend company, okay, or the company which is there in your friend circle, when they get a project which they can't do, and if you can do it, then they will redirect that project to you. So this is a very good practice which is followed by Infosys. So if they can't take up the project, then they will simply redirect them to company which can do that project efficiently and deliver that project in time. Okay. So Shreya says that there are challenges everywhere. We can't say no to something if we don't. If the time is sufficient, then we will develop it and learn from it. If time is not sufficient, then we will hire outside people who are good at it. See, that's a very risky step, Shreyas, because developing a skill, developing a new team is always a challenge. And even hiring the outside people is also a challenge. You will not get good resources so easily. So you may have to end up in paying them more. And if you don't have the budget, then that will be a problem. So the safest bet is that you take up that project which you can deliver on time, which you can do best. Okay, so developing skill takes time. Okay, so if you are visualizing that, okay, so and so area, let's say for example artificial intelligence and machine learning is picking up nowadays. So if you feel that you don't have a skill, 1 or 2 years, develop the skills, right? After that you can take up the project, but you cannot take up the project and start developing the uh, skills. Okay, so clients will not be having sufficient time. Okay, so note here that you are not developing a research software where not much timeline or a product. But if you're providing a service and if you're developing alternate product in the market, then you don't have time. Okay, so let's consider the present scenario itself. Now many people, many companies, many countries, they are trying to develop the vaccine for COVID-19. Okay, so they cannot say that we have taken up the project, we will develop the skill and then we will develop the vaccine. There is no time for it. Okay, so whatever skills they have, based on that says that either build a new team or look for a different project. If a bad quality project is submitted, is what happens. So you should not burn your fingers into the project which you cannot deliver efficiently. So it is better to redirect them to some other company, so which specializes in that. So that company in future may forward some other projects which you can do to you. So that's how you can also build a network of companies and relationships, and you can get good projects in your domain itself. Okay, so let's move to the next point. So in this experiment, what we are doing is we will learn to identify the functional and non-functional requirements from a problem statement. Okay, so we will discuss what is meant by functional requirement and what is meant by non-functional requirement. And apart from that, there are other requirements such as hardware requirements and software requirements. And there are also user interface requirements. Of course, these user interface requirements can be clubbed into functional requirements. Now, when we say hardware requirements and software requirements, they are different for different scenarios. For example, when you develop a software, there will be three kinds of environment which are considered. So the first type of environment is the development environment. So development environment is the one, it is used by the developers to develop the software. For example, their laptop configuration, their RAM and RAM on the laptop, and the processor speed and the operating system, etc. So this is uh, developer configuration. Let's say for example, developer may use i7 processor, Visual Studio and Internet Explorer to develop the software and test the software. Now once the development does, your software goes to the test department. Now testing department will test it on various platforms, so they will not be working on the single environment. So if your application is web based application, then they will test it on different browsers. Say for example, they will test it on Chrome, they will test it on Firefox, they will test it on Microsoft Edge, they will test it on Safari and so on. They will also test it on different versions of the web browsers. They will also test it on the same browsers on different operating systems. Okay, so this is the test environment. Similarly, a mobile application, then they will test it on the different mobiles. So they will test it on different mobile OSs. For example, right? Then also the different versions of these operating systems. They will test your application and they will see how it functions. So that's a test environment. Then the third environment is really challenging, and that is where your software has to work actually. That is known as production environment. So production environment is the one where systems are there at the client's location, and you have to go to the client's location and install the software and see that everything works there. Okay, so you might have heard that many of your relatives have visited other countries if they're working in software companies, right? So that is what they are doing. So the software is being deployed at the client's location, and again there will be different configurations of systems, and you should ensure that your software works fine on the client's location. Okay, so that is what these software engineers do when they visit the client's location. Okay, so they provide support to the clients and see that everything works fine. Okay, and why I'm saying production environment is challenging, because you cannot tell the client to purchase new operating systems. You cannot tell the client to purchase new devices. So this aspect you should take into consideration when you are developing a software. If your client is not having a budget to purchase a new equipment or a new laptop or new system or new software, he will simply reject your proposal. Okay, so that's a problem of economic feasibility. So let's start with the experiment here. So the objective of this experiment is to identify ambiguities, inconsistencies, and incompleteness from a requirement specification. Note here that when you meet your client, when they tell the requirements, there will be ambiguities in the requirements. Say, for example, when you meet the HOD of computer science department, he will give you some set of requirements. When you meet HOD of civil engineering, he will give you some set of requirements. When you meet some set of requirements, and there can be ambiguities between these set of requirements. Okay, so you those ambiguities from the requirements, and you should develop a common platform. Then similarly you should also remove the inconsistencies. Then then it is possible that requirements can be incomplete. Okay, so that is because the stakeholders will not be aware of how the software system works actually. Okay, the next is identify and state functional requirements. The next is identify and state non-functional requirements. Okay, so let me tell you in brief what are functional requirements and what are non-functional requirements. So functional requirements are the functionalities which you are developing when you are writing a software. So examples for functional requirements are developing a login system, developing a functionality of forget password, okay, developing a feature of new registration, developing a feature of awarding grades, okay, developing a feature of calculating CGPA, SGPA. So all these are functional requirements. Okay. Then next comes the non-functional requirements. So actually in non-functional requirements, most of the times you don't write the code, but without these non-functional requirements, your software will not run. Okay. Note here that non-functional requirements are the requirements without which your functional requirements will. Okay, say for example, you have developed a software on Android 10 using the features of Android 10. Then it is compulsory to install and it is compulsory to have program already on your mobile phone, and when you try to install the newly developed software, it will not work. Okay, why? The requirement is that you should have Android 10, but what you have Android 9. So that is how the non-functional requirement works. Okay, then next maybe to work or to successfully run the software, you need at least 2 GB RAM. But if you are having only 1 GB RAM, okay, then again your software will not work. So the solution is to increase the RAM. Okay, so that is non-functional requirement. Okay, so non-functional requirements are those without which your functional requirements will not work. So most of the times these non-functional requirements are configuration settings or infrastructure issues. Okay, so we will discuss this with an example, don't worry about it. So as we have said, so one is unambiguity, consistency, and completeness. Okay, so what is unambiguity? There should not be any ambiguity what a system to be developed should do. For example, consider you are developing a web application for your client. The client requires that enough number of people should be able to access the application simultaneously. So what is enough number of people? That could mean 10 to you, but perhaps 100 to the client. So there is an ambiguity. Okay, so I had also asked a question in the chat box. So one of the student was saying sufficient time. So I had asked the question, how much is sufficient? Okay, so you cannot have such keywords in the requirements, enough number of people or sufficient time, sufficient processing power, sufficient resource, okay, sufficient people, okay, very good skill, highly skilled. Okay, these are all ambiguous terms. So these are all just qualitative terms. So you should not have these qualitative terms because these may mean different to different people. Okay, so you should specify clearly. For example, in this example, it says that the client requires that enough number of people should be able to access the application simultaneously. Then you should immediately ask the client, okay, how many people you expect simultaneously. So based on that, you can suggest the appropriate hosting plan. Okay, let's say for example, if you purchase a shared hosting plan, then all the shared hosting plans or basic plans, they support only up to 250 simultaneous connections to access a website. Then he will get a message, page not found or timeout message. So if your client says that my web 1000 hits per second, then shared hosting will not work. At that time you need to go to dedicated server, and if there are more visits, then you can go for cloud hosting. Then again in cloud hosting there will be different levels. Okay, so based on the user's requirement, you should select the appropriate plan there. The next is the consistency. So consistency is that, so consider the automation of a nuclear plant. So suppose one of the clients say that if the radiation level inside the plant exceeds R1, all reactors should be shut down. However, another person from the client suggests that threshold radiation level should be R2. So thus an inconsistency between the two end users regarding what they consider as threshold level of radiation. So this is the fairly simple example. So for a same operation, you cannot have two threshold levels. Okay, say for example, if we take the same example in academics, one professor may say that keep passing marks as 40, another person may say that keep passing marks as 50. So this is inconsistency in the client's requirement. Okay, because each person is telling the different thing for the same purpose. The next is the completeness. So a particular requirement for a system should specify and also what it should not. Note here that this is very, very important. You have to clearly specify what the system should do and it should not. Okay. For example, consider a software to be developed for ATM. An amount greater than the maximum permissible withdrawal amount, the ATM should display the error message and it should not dispense any cash. Okay, so this is the common feature. So it has clearly specified that the customer can withdraw the money up to maximum permissible withdrawal amount. Otherwise, it should display the error message. So this is a complete requirement. If you just specify what system should not do, or if you specify just what it should do, then it is incomplete requirement. So for a complete what it should not do. Okay. Similarly, when categorization of requirements, you can classify them as user requirements and requirements based on the target audience. So when you consider based on the target audience, you can classify them as user requirements and system requirements. And in general, requirements can be classified into two groups, that is functional requirements and second one is non-functional. These two. So functional requirements are or these describe the functionality of a system. So how a system should react to a particular set of inputs and what should be the corresponding. So that is what we had discussed in earlier examples. Your login system. So your login system takes username and password as input and it produces dashboard as the output. Okay, or inbox as the output or timeline as the output. So depending on the requirements of the client. The non-functional requirements, functionalities are expected from the system. However, non-functional requirements could typically define how the system should behave under certain situations. So, for example, non-functional requirement could say that system should work with 128 MB RAM. Under such condition, non-functional requirement could be more critical than is what I had explained earlier. So, in many conditions, so non-functional requirements without sufficient resources, without sufficient infrastructure. Then non-functional requirements are classified into three types. So you can read this document for more information. Product requirements, a specification that the web application should only use plain HTML and no frames. Okay. So note here that nowadays frames are not used in developing the application because internal frames, especially, they have the uh, problem of security. So through which your website can be hacked. So internal frames are never used, and also the general frames are not used because you cannot have a mobile application when you use frames. Then similarly, performance experiments. So the performance requirements. So the system should remain available for 24 cross 7. So what is exactly 24 cross 7? That is the availability requirement. It has got a different definition. So when I say availability, it is not always 24 cross 7 or it is not have some time allocated for maintenance of a system. So you can say that our availability is 98% per year or 99% per year. Okay. So like that. So you should have some time for maintenance, backup, recovery, and so on. So you can have up to 99.99% of availability. You cannot say that your system will be available 100% of the time. So availability is defined in terms of uh, different parameters. So availability is defined in terms of accessibility. Say I'm a professor, so it is expected that I should be available in college from 10 to 5. So if I am available in the college from 10 to 5, that means I am accessible from 10 to 5. That means my availability is 100%. But let's assume that out of 8 hours, I am not available for 2 hours. Then my availability is uh, 6 by 8 into 100. So that is 75% because I'm not available for 2 hours. So that's how the availability is defined. So even in computer technologies based on the software, you can define the availability. Let's say, for example, in banking systems, if you are transferring the money through NEFT, you cannot always transfer money through NEFT. Note here that that service is not available 24 cross 7. It is available only during banking working hours, NEFT. Okay, but if you're going for IMPS, yes, it is available 24 cross 7. But if you're going for NEFT, then it is only available during banking hours. Okay, so if it is available during banking hours, then its availability is 100%. So that is based on the policy. Then organizational requirements are the development process should comply to SCI CMM level 4. So these are the standards. SEI stands for Software Engineering Institute. It's there in US. I think it's there in Carnegie Mellon University. Okay, so let's not discuss deep. So let's go to the session aspect now. Yeah, yeah. Okay, fine. So Flash was disabled on my browser. So to run this application to see the simulation, you need to enable Flash on your browser. Okay. So now you can see here on the left hand side, you have the problem description. So this is what will be given to you, or this is what you need to frame out of interaction with your client. Okay. So you need to document the entire conversation in terms of paragraph, or it may be in terms of dialogue. That's fine. Okay. So now this is an experiment which shows how to extract functional requirements when the problem statement is given. So this is a hypothetical system. So it is the case under study of online voting system. So here they are trying to develop online voting system, and there is a description of the problem. And from this description of the problem, you need to extract the functional requirements. Now what this says, Okay, so let me read the problem definition first, then we can see the simulation on the right hand side. So the problem definition says that internet has led to discussion of e-democracy and online voting. Many people think that the internet could replace representative democracy, enabling everyone to vote on everything and anything by online voting. Online voting could reduce the cost and make voting more convenient. This type of voting can be done and can be used for finalizing a solution if many alternatives are present. Online voting makes use of authentication, hence needs security, and system must be able to address obtaining, marking, delivering and counting ballots via computer. Advantage of online voting is it could increase voter turnout because of convenience and it helps to reduce fraud voting. Now note here that if you read this problem definition, there are many general things which are included. So not everything is important for us. Okay. So in this problem description, you need to make out the requirements. Okay. Let's say for example, now let's look at the right hand side. So you can see here that there are few terms which are highlighted. For example, makes use of authentication. So how are you going to implement authentication? So you can implement authentication by providing user registration feature. So how user registration works? A candidate or a user wishes to vote online has to register with the system by providing his details. His registration has to be verified by admin. Okay. So this is the first functional requirement. Then let's see the next functional requirement. So again, the next functional requirement user login. So a user has to log in order to vote. So without login, a user cannot vote. Okay, because if you allow, then there will be again huge fraud voting. So to avoid that, you have to provide specific details. Okay, so he can also view the details of a candidate in that particular constituency and he needs to log in. So this is another functional requirement. Then let's see the next functional requirement. So again, the next functional requirement is from the same uh, terms, that is makes use of, that is publish manifesto. So a candidate can log in and publish his election manifesto. Note here that even though it is the same authentication, but it is for different users. Okay, so voter has a different dashboard after logging in. Candidate has a different dashboard after logging in. Okay. So manifesto can only be published by a candidate, not by a voter. Voter can just see the manifesto. Okay. But all these functionalities need authentication. And when they authenticate, they will get the respective screens. The next is that must be able to address. Okay. Obtaining, marking, delivering, and counting ballots via computer. Yeah. So next requirement is only one vote. So a candidate should be able to vote only once. This is to reduce fraud voting. So once he uh, casts his vote, his dashboard should be disabled. Okay. So should not be able to change the vote. So voting is that. So these are the different functionalities with respect to obtaining, marking, and delivering votes. So that is that user or the voter should be able to vote. He should be able to view the result, and there has to be a system which should be able to count the ballots before publishing the results. So note here that from this description, you are going to so if you are interested, then you can use natural language processing. You can use Python or some other programming language and give the paragraph as the input, and the output should be the functional requirements. So you can do that. That will be an interesting project. Okay, so if you have not understood this, you can open this URL. The virtual lab link has already been included in the Google Classroom. Okay, you can visit the first experiment, and you can visit simulation part, and you can reread and analyze it. So note here that everything is important to us. So similarly here, so again the problem description has been given, and the different functional requirements have been listed, non-functional requirements have been listed here. So let's just look at the examples of functional requirements here. So you can reread the problem definition, and you can analyze it, and you can cross verify whether are you able to identify the functional requirements and non-functional requirements correctly. So this is the problem definition related to library information system. So the functional requirements are new user registration, then searching a book. So when you are searching a book, there are options. You can search by title, search by author's name, and search by publisher's name. The next is the user login feature. The next feature is issue a book. Okay, so you can issue a book if it is found in the library and no other member has currently issued the book, and current user has not been issued the maximum number of books. So these are the constraints while issuing the books. And similarly, return book and reissue book. Okay. So when you're returning a book, you are also specifying the return date. So these are the functional requirements related to library information system. And also you can see here that a table has been created. So for each requirement, ID has been assigned. So ID starts with R and a number. So R1 to R6, and requirement name has been specified. And you can also note here that the priority has also been specified. So if the priority is high, then that's a must have feature, and that needs to be implemented first. Okay. So priority low means you can implement it later. The next examples for non-functional requirements are that system should remain accessible 24 cross 7. Okay, so in this case, yes, it is possible 24 cross 7, but not all systems should be accessible 24 cross 7. It is dependent on the kind of system you are developing and the policies of that organization. Then at least 50 together at any given time. Okay, so this is a library system. So it is generally used within an organization. So 50 users is acceptable. Okay, but if you're developing a public system like bank, then 50 users is very less. You should have at least 5,000 users at a time. Again, it depends on the size of the bank. Then security requirements, the system should be accessible only within the institute LAN, right? It should not be accessible outside the LAN. That means it should not be available on the internet. It should be available only on the intranet. Okay, the database, of library information system should not store any password in plain text. That means you should have hashed value or you should encrypt it and store it. Okay. Then it doesn't have any software quality attributes and database requirements. Then there are some design constraints. So the design constraints are that the system has to be developed as a web application. So they have not mentioned that it should be mobile application. So this virtual lab has been developed long back. So they say that it should work with a minimum Firefox 5, Internet Explorer 8, Google Chrome 12, and Opera 10. So this is the minimum version. Okay. So versions specified these and beyond should be supported. So what if you try to open it on Firefox 4 and it is not necessary as per their requirement, then the system should be developed using HTML5. Note here that client is clearly specifying which software to use. So when sometimes clients specify which tools to use if they have the technical expertise. If they don't have technical expertise, then as a developer you can suggest based on their budget. So if they have a less budget, then you can specify open source tools and you can develop it using open source tools. So you can save cost of software purchase. Okay. Otherwise, if they have a budget, then you can suggest enterprise softwares which are developed by companies. Okay. Now, the last statement is very important. Once all the functional and non-functional requirements have been identified, they are documented formally in a SRS, which then serves as a legal agreement. So that is what I have made this statement earlier to this class, beginning of the class, that SRS document is nothing but a part of contract. Okay, so there are some quiz questions here. So you can try to answer these questions and submit. The next procedure. Okay, so here the procedure to perform this experiment has been stated. So to perform this experiment, you should follow these steps. That is, read the theory about the experiment, then view the simulation provided for chosen related problem, then take the self-evaluation to judge your understanding, then solve the given list of exercises. So this is what you should be doing in this experiment. Then there are some experiment specific instructions. That is, from a given problem, if there are any inconsistencies with the requirement specification. Also try to determine what are the functional and non-functional requirements. And last, select the checkboxes accordingly and then click the submit button. So all the instructions have been clearly specified. So you have to follow these steps before submitting your journal next week. So now let's move to the exercises. Now note here that there are 3 exercises. You should submit the journal for all these 3 exercises. That's because in each exercises we are focusing on different aspect. For example, in exercise number 1, we are focusing only on functional requirement. In exercise 2, we are focusing only on non-functional requirement and so on. So let's select exercise 1 here. Okay. So in exercise 1, definition. Okay. So the problem definition says that new users can register to the system through an on process. By registering a user agrees to abide by different predefined terms and system. Any registered user can access the different features of the system authorized to him or her. After he authenticates himself through the login screen, an authenticated user can put items in the system for auction. Authenticated users can bid for an item. Once the auction is over, the item will be sold to the user placing the maximum bid. Payments are to be made by third-party payment services, which of course is guaranteed to be secure. The user selling the item will be responsible for its shipping. If the seller thinks he is getting a good price, he can, however, sell the item at any point of time to the maximum bidder available. Now note here that for this experiment, yeah, the learning objectives are that identifying the characteristics that system should have, but not done by the system itself. These are the objectives. I think I need to select once again. Yes. So the learning objectives are learn about three different aspects that have to be taken care of while writing the requirement specification. So from the above problems specification, you need to identify the ambiguities here. Then similarly, you need to identify the inconsistencies. Then you need to identify the reason, or you need to say that the problem is incomplete or is it complete. And then you should click on submit button. Every experiment, whenever you get a problem description in terms of paragraph, you should be doing these three. Identify incompleteness. So you should check for these three properties, these three characteristics, whether the requirement is ambiguous, you should check. If there are ambiguities, you should identify them. You should check whether there are inconsistencies. You should check whether the problem definition is incomplete. So once you do this, then you should identify the function requirements. Okay. So from this, you should identify the functional requirements. So can you identify here? So you can go to the link and perform this experiment, read the problem description and identify the functional requirements. And if you feel that something is not a functional requirement, you can ask me a question, why it is not a functional requirement. Okay, registration, user login, upload an item, auction item, then bid for item, win auction, remove item, remove auctioned. Let me check. So all these are functional requirements. Okay. Now note here that when I see balance check, okay, bidder should have. Note here that this is not a functional requirement because we are not checking no which conducts auction will check whether the client is having or the bidder is having the enough money to bid. They do is they just take the token amount. If the bidder is able to submit a token amount, he can participate in the bid and he can participate in the auction. So they don't check whether you have the bank balance to purchase that auctioned item. Okay. So that's why this is not a functional requirement. And we are not going to write a code for it. This is beyond the scope. The next ship item, let me check. Okay. So once the item is purchased, shipping item is a functional requirement. Then let me check about availability. Okay, so note here that availability is not a functional requirement. So what is mentioned here, the system should remain up and running before, during and after an auction. Okay, so this is not a functional requirement. This is a non-functional requirement. Then let me check this. Site support. Note here that customer care for the website should provide 24/7 help over phone. This is an interesting point. This is neither functional requirement nor non-functional requirement. Okay. Why it is not a functional requirement is because you are not writing a code to provide site support. Okay, because anyway it says that you have to provide 24/7 support over phone. Okay, you are not writing any code for it. Then second point is that also not non-functional requirement. Why? Because your site's functionality does not depend on this. Whether you provide 24/7 support, you don't provide 24/7 support over phone, it doesn't matter to the functionality of the application. Okay, so that's why it is not a non-functional requirement and it is not a functional requirement. Okay, so let's go to the third aspect, that is non-functional requirement. Okay, now here it says that the system provides option for online registration of new users. Okay, then the system should remain up and running. Yes, this is a non-functional requirement. This is not a requirement. Sessions of different users must not affect each other. Okay, this is very, very important. This is a non-functional requirement again. Then system should maintain a privacy of their users and it should not leak their information to third parties. So this you can achieve using authentication and also you can enable SSL. Then system should be able to service 100 users simultaneously. Yes, it is a non-functional requirement. Then system could remain unavailable for up to 2 hours for maintenance once in a quarter with 36 hours prior notice. Note here that this is very, very important. So once in a quarter, that is once in every 3 months, it should be unavailable for maintenance, and before maintenance hours. So let me check. Yes, all these are non-functional requirements. Now let me check. Note here that the system provides an option for online registration of new users. This is a functional requirement. Okay, so that's why it is showing red mark here. The next, system automatically removes. Yes, this is also a functional requirement. The next one, note here that this is what we had discussed. Customer care for the website should provide 24/7 help over phone. Okay, so it had shown red color in functional requirement as well as in non-functional requirement because it is not functional as well as non-functional requirement. Okay, it is just some feature you are providing. Okay, it's not a feature you are developing, or it's not on this the working of your system depends. Okay, so what you should be doing is you should repeat this experiment in a week's time. So by next Saturday, you should submit the screenshot. So copy this problem definition and perform this experiment. You will get this screenshot of functional requirements. You should take a screenshot, Word document, convert it into PDF and upload. Okay. So we will today create the assignment, and to that assignment only you should submit. Okay, don't upload it anywhere else. You should upload it against the experiment number. Okay, so those who have not yet joined the classroom, please join the classroom. So I am saying only 142 students. So remaining students, please join this classroom, otherwise it will be very difficult for us to award grades to you. Okay, so only 142 students are there. So In this meeting, 181 students are there, so still I think 39 students have to join. And if there are any more students from other division, please inform them to join the classroom. Okay. So next week, before next Saturday, you should submit the first experiment. So is it clear regarding journal submission? If you have got any other point, please message here. I will address your query. If there is any difficulty for any student to upload the assignment, or if it is not possible because of any reason, you can post. Okay, there is a question by Pranav Kulkarni here. Is there bargaining happens between client and company? Yes, it definitely happens. That's called as negotiation, right? And it happens at various levels. It may be with respect to the functionality, it may be with respect to the cost, it may be with respect to the solution. So if you have got any doubt with respect to journal submission or experiments, okay. Sagar has asked a question. We must copy problem statement and then complete all three exercises and then take screenshot of that, convert to PDF and upload. Correct, 100%. So whatever Sagar has said, that is 100% right. That's the procedure you need to follow. You should upload it against the assignment, against the experiment. No additional material to be included. It's fine. So the main objective of this lab is to so take up a problem definition, concentrate more on your project. So in that project, you can include more details like SRS document, software design document, test cases, use cases. Okay, so those things you include in your project report. It may be just for 5 marks this time, but you will learn a lot. But follow the steps mentioned in the experiment thoroughly so that you can understand the concept clearly. Yeah. Any other question? So Sahil, just problem statement and three section screenshots in a PDF. Yes, for first experiment, only this much. Only two problem statements. So it depends on the experiment. But Sahil, whatever you have asked, yes, it's correct. So I will wait for 2 more minutes if there are any questions. Yeah, Rohan, I have already announced at the beginning of this class, you can make a team of 2 to 4 members. Minimum is two, maximum is four. Next question. Yeah, about the problem statement selection, Akshay. Akshay is asking about problem statement selection. I think you joined late. As I have already told you, this time it may not be possible for you people to visit the client's location or to find out the real customer. So you can have a hypothetical problem definition. That's fine for us this time. You can choose any problems with the faculty members. Just get the problem definition approval from us. That's more than enough. And implement the changes members. That's enough for this time. So if anybody doesn't have a system to implement the to do the experiment, please contact me. We'll see what can be done, what alternate solution provided to you. So, but not only one thing here, that we are here to help you. So if you have got any problem, you contact us, we will help you. Thank you, Umesh sir. So I will wait for 1 more minute. After that, we'll log out if I don't get any questions. Yeah, you can form, no issues. Groups can be formed with students of different divisions. Yes, allowed. You can go ahead with that. Each student have to select different problem definition. Yes, for a project. So Gauri Patil is asking each student have to select different problem definition. We expect that each team should work on a different project. Or if the project is big, then you can work on some modules and some other team can work on some other modules. That's fine. We are not expecting a using which we want you to learn the step-by-step process of software development and add to artifacts like use case diagrams or test cases, use case database design, algorithms, and so on. Okay, fine then. Thank you everyone. If there are no questions, I will log out and video will be uploaded on the YouTube and the link will be shared Google Classroom. So if you have got any questions, you can always message me. No issues with that. Okay. So if you have got any problems also, don't worry. We are here to help you. Thank you everyone.